Alright, check. Guys, this is the conclusion of the Garage Potter-thon. And what I'm doing here today is that I'm going to be ranking all of the Harry Potter movies that I've been watching for the past 2 weeks. I'm going to rank them all, okay? Now, I usually don't like ranking movies, and I like giving each movie their fair shot. So I'm not one of those YouTubers who will be like ranking movies all the time. However, I feel like since I did watch all of these Harry Potter movies and did a separate video for each of them, I feel like a ranking video would be a little more appropriate. Guys, this was quite an adventure. We've had our ups, we've had our downs. There were some movies I loved, some movies I didn't like as much. Let's see. Let's rank them. Let's just talk about them. This was going to be a quick recap video. If you guys don't agree with my opinion on this list, I suggest you look at my previous videos. Okay, if I say something you guys don't agree with, look at the video. I go a little more in depth on each movie. That said, let's go ahead. Let's rank these fuckers. Why did I call them little fuckers? I don't know. By the way, it's very late at night. I just threw on a flannel shirt and my Sex Pistols t-shirt, but I'm not wearing any pants. So, yeah. I don't know why I had to make a disclaimer for that. Let's go ahead. Number 8 here. Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, Part 1. Guys, I know people who read the book think it's essential that the last book was separated into 2 parts. I understand that. It was a very meaty book. That said, all I do is consume movies. And as far as movie consumption goes, I don't think Harry Potter 7 Part 1 is a very good one. I feel like it's very derivative stylistically of a Twilight movie. I feel like not much happens. I feel like the characters don't go through an arc, which, again, I understand. It's because this is the setup. But a problem I have with the later Harry Potter movies is that Part 1 is all setup, and Part 2 is all payoff. And I feel like somewhere in there, someone on the internet should edit the movies so that it's like a 3-hour movie for Harry Potter 7 Part 1 and Part 2, where all the junk is edited out and maybe a few essential deleted scenes are integrated in that project. I want to see that fan project. Maybe good old Peter Harmey can do that. No, I'm kidding. Peter Harmey has got his own things going on. Yeah, I don't think this is too controversial. I've been talking to my friends who are more Potterheady than me, and they kind of agree 7 Part 1 is a bit of a snoozer. There's one thing I didn't mention in my review. I love the scene. There's one scene I love, and it's fucking Ron is all moody, and he ditches Harry and Hermione at some point. And then, like, 30 minutes go by in the film, and he comes back, and he's just like, "Hey guys, I'm back. Sorry about that." And then Hermione's fucking pissed at Ron, and Ron's just like, dude, you obviously fucked up. Stop doing that face. He's just like, get a load of this girl. I don't know. I thought that was funny. Let's go on to number 7 here. Number 7, I have Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. I have a lot of friends who like this one. Unfortunately, I'm not one of those guys. I feel like this movie is so inconsequential. I feel like each Harry Potter movie, what I like about it is that it's a teen movie wrapped in this fantasy world. And I didn't think the fantasy was all that interesting. And I don't think the teen drama was all that interesting in this movie as well. I can sum up the movie right now for you. The Ministry of Magic says that Voldemort has not come back and everything is fine. And Harry Potter teaches a class. And at the end, shit hits the fan. They fight Voldemort. And the Ministry of Magic was like, huh, I guess they were a threat. Well, shit, we're gonna have a lot of figuring out to do in the next movie. That's Harry Potter 5 to me. It's not a horrible movie. Compared to most blockbuster movies, I'd say all of the Harry Potters are quite decent. But judging them based on one another, I think this is one of the weaker Harry Potter movies. Next, I have Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. I really like the latter half of this movie. Once the Tom Riddle stuff starts, we start digging into that, I feel like the movie gets really interesting. Where the movie kind of lost me was the first act. I feel like it was just a bunch of set pieces, and there wasn't much room for a character. Which is a reoccurring theme with the movies I place lower on this list, is I feel like the character isn't as solid as in the films that I rank higher. But I feel like this was just set pieces. It moved very quickly. It was Ron and Harry at the herbology class, and then cut. Now we're in the defense against the dark arts class, and there's the pixies. Cut. And it was all these set pieces at the beginning, but they weren't really tying into one another. I feel like Chris Columbus might have gone a tad too Chris Columbus-y in this film, and had he done a third one, I feel like it would have been in a situation like Sam Raimi with Spider-Man 3, where it would have just been a dud. Luckily, Warner Bros. Was smart enough to have the foresight and be like, hey, I think the series works best when we rotate the directors around, and Alfonso Cuarón would direct the third one, which I feel like was a good move. There is a lot to like about Chamber of Secrets. I feel like it's a much darker film. It's a very dark kids movie, which I like, and they don't make enough of those these days. These kids movies that are just very dark. You have someone going around writing strange messages in blood in Hogwarts, and the whole Basilisk fight at the end where Harry puts a sword through the Basilisk. It's a very dark movie for a kid's movie, and that's what I really liked, and I wish they leaned a bit more into it. That said, Chamber of Secrets, relatively good movie. I just ranked it a little lower here. Next, I have Harry Potter 7 Part 2, The Deathly Hallows 7 Part 2. I think Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2 is a satisfying conclusion. I would compare it to a movie like Avengers Endgame. Avengers Endgame works as a conclusion. Where I think it fails is that I feel like some of the stuff just don't work. And I feel like people are blinded by it because the conclusion itself is so good. In Avengers and Endgame, people remember Tony Stark dying and Captain America returning to the past. And that was such a satisfying conclusion that people forget there's a whole other movie. I feel like that's the same case with Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. I feel like the beginning of this movie has a lot of the same problems that I had with Harry Potter 7 Part 1. But once that conclusion kicks in, it's a very satisfying conclusion. And I'm not talking about the action. I wasn't that big into the action in this movie. I didn't think it was as exciting as some might think. To me, giant battles kind of feel weightless to me. A problem I did have with Avengers Endgame as well, where when I just see two tribes of people clashing into one another, that doesn't excite me. But a scene where Harry Potter is in a flying car with Ron, like we saw in Chamber of Secrets, that's a scene that excites me. But what works really works, and I'm really happy that J.K. Rowling decided not to make another Harry Potter book, and I'm really happy Warner Brothers just said, look, this was a great series, let's just end it here. I'm really happy for that, because this ending works even to this day. The scene where Harry is bringing his kids on the Hogwarts Express, and he's meeting with Ron, and Ron kind of gained weight, and so did Malfoy, and they're all older. It really struck a chord with me, especially watching all of these movies consecutively. It really does work dramatically, and you have that Hedwig's theme playing, just like we heard back in the first movie. It was very well done. I feel like that's what worked. My gripes with it were more in the first half of the film. So we're at number 4. I got Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, the one that started it all. I would say at this point in this list, the films get really good. Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone is a timeless movie. You watch it to this day, and it still holds up. I was actually quite surprised at how much it holds up. The one thing that doesn't really hold up, I'd say, is the children acting, which is understandable, they're children, but the special effects are friggin' amazing. I didn't remember the special effects being this good, but the 3-headed dog, excellent effect. Even the troll in the bathroom, excellent effect. Even when you compare it to some of the later Harry Potter movies, I feel like the effects in this one are the best. They don't have CGI birds, there's real owls in this. So many great memorable lines, great casting. You gotta remember that this is the first Harry Potter movie, and it's so iconic, the casting of people like Snape, who you can't picture anyone but Alan Rickman playing Severus Snape now. just everyone was perfectly cast in this movie, and that John Williams score is so beautiful. And it really is a hero's journey. It's very structurally similar to Fellowship of the Ring or the original Star Wars, where you have this kid who's in this enclosed environment, whether it's the Shire, the Dursleys' house, or Tatooine, and he knows that there's something greater out there, and this mentor takes him on this journey where he becomes a child prodigy. Structurally, it's a narrative that's not new, it doesn't reinvent the wheel, but it really is effective in my opinion. And you mix that with J.K. Rowling's fantasy world, her taste for mythology, it just works as a movie. I don't think this is a good Harry Potter movie. I think this is a good movie. Period. Number 3, we're getting in the top 3 here, folks. I don't know how controversial this would be, but number 3 to me was Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, so the 6th film here. The first time I watched this movie, I actually didn't like it. But upon rewatching it, I actually enjoyed it a lot. And my brother actually told me that. He was like, Paul, you're going to rewatch number 6 and you're going to enjoy it a lot. And it's got me wondering, why didn't I like it the first time I watched it? And it could be because I'm more of a cinematic person. I like going to the cinema to watch movies. And that was the first Harry Potter movie I didn't see in cinemas. I watched it at home, and the quality of the video wasn't all that good. So it could be that. One of my favorite critics when it comes to film was Spill.com. For those of you who don't know Spill.com, it's one of the first internet film podcasts that came to be. Right now the channel no longer exists, Spill.com, but the people continued in Double Toasted. But sometimes when I watch a movie, I'll just listen to some of their videos on YouTube from their archives. And I saw them review this movie, and they had a similar reaction to me where they didn't like it at first. And Martin Thomas, who in Spill.com was known as Leon, he said he read all the books and he said, this is one of the stronger Harry Potter movies. You just don't know it yet. And you need to go back and rewatch it in order to truly enjoy it.
Dang, all these matinees. I guess I should join in. Except I absolutely love this movie. It's almost my favorite. And just that, from a book that I thought was going to be hard to pull off. Yeah, it was, but it did much better. I think this is going to be one of those movies that you guys will come back to look. Right now you have expectations of how it should be structured. I think you'll come back and watch it later on video. And as it plays out the way it does, you'll like it better. Well, but for me, it's a full price.
Pussy. Maybe it will make. Maybe.
And I feel like that's what happened. Once you understand Severus Snape, what he does in the final Harry Potter movie, going back and watching Half-Blood Prince does take on a new meaning. And I really like the innuendos that are inserted into the film. Each film kind of alludes to a different period in growing up. And there's a lot of innuendos to drugs, alcohol, sex. The Harry Potter crew was at that age, and I feel like it's no surprise that in that film you have the kids experimenting with potions and starting to get a little close and personal with ladies and stuff like that. I feel like J.K. Rowling knew exactly what she was doing when it came to that thing. I feel like, to me, what qualifies as a perfect Harry Potter movie is when the fantasy and the teen drama mesh together perfectly. And Half-Blood Prince does it perfectly. I wasn't expecting to like this movie upon rewatching it, but I truly did. And for those of you who didn't like it the first time around, I suggest you give it another shot. This movie really stands well on its own. The ending with Dumbledore, where you really see Dumbledore being weak. When you think of it, these blockbuster movies, when they have a mentor character, think of someone like an Obi-Wan in Star Wars. You never saw them hit the low that Dumbledore hits in this movie. We really see him at his lowest, and it was a really interesting touch to me. And that scene where Snape kills Dumbledore, spoiler alert, the scene where Snape kills Dumbledore takes on a whole new meaning to me once you know the motive behind Snape. When he's walking away from that incident, and it looks, upon first glance, it looks like he's just walking away like a badass and he doesn't give a fuck. But when you realize that he didn't want to do that, you rewatch that scene, and it takes on a whole new meaning, and that just goes to show how good of an actor Alan Rickman is. Guys, I highly recommend Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Moving on to number 2. Which one is it gonna be? Guys, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, number 2. This is usually people's number 1. I think it's a friggin' solid movie. I'm not suggesting otherwise. I just think there's one other Harry Potter movie out there that's a little better. But yeah, I really love The Prisoner of Azkaban. When it comes to John Williams' score, this is the last one John Williams would work on. But this is his magnum opus. The flute sounds, the doo 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 doo. The time travel plot was really interesting, and it's one of the few movies to me, blockbuster movies that is, where the time traveling element actually doesn't feel hammy or like a shoe-in. It really works in this story. The relationship Harry has with Lupin is very interesting. It's very touching. The emotion in this is very touching. Alfonso Cuarón really brings something new to the table in this movie, and especially when you watch 1, 2, and then 3, you really get to see the change in director, and that's really something that's interesting to me. One thing I didn't mention in my review that I forgot to, so I'll bring it up here. This is really non-pertinent, but so Warwick Davis plays Professor, I forget his name, Flippin or whatever. I'm just gonna call Flitwick, something like that. But the way he looks in Chris Columbus's Harry Potter movies is much different from the way it looks in Chris Columbus's movies. I don't know why that change happened. I didn't even realize he played the same character. I just assumed that the old fart died and Warwick Davis was playing a new character. But apparently they're the same character, just with a different design. Which apparently Alfonso Cuarón's design is more accurate to J.K. Rowling's novels. So that's probably why they did the design change. Regardless, I just think it's something interesting. And it's something I wish more blockbuster movies did. It does happen from time to time with the Marvel movies. If you look at the design of Thanos in Guardians of the Galaxy when he first shows up, it's much different from when you see him in Avengers. But I kind of like seeing the little changes that directors bring to a franchise, and that was one that was interesting to me. Alright, number 1 here. Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. I don't know if this is a controversial opinion or not. I fucking love this movie. I love the structure of this movie especially. It starts off, it looks like your average Harry Potter movie, where there's this Triwizard Tournament, and Harry Potter is competing in it, and he doesn't want to. But then the movie comes to a screeching halt, and just becomes about these kids that are nervous about going to the ball. And guys, I remember I was in high school, and whenever there was a high school dance or something, the anxiety that would come with it, having to talk to girls and like trying to get with girls, and you're not at that age yet where you're really interested in girls. You're just kind of doing it because you watch other people do it and you kind of want to fit in, and you're just like kind of awkward and dorky. I remember being that age. I was a pimply motherfucker, and for some reason when I was growing up and I was at that age, I was a small guy, but the only part of my body that grew were my nose and my hands. I had really large hands and really big nose. Fortunately enough, my whole body evened out, and I'm a relatively normal person right now, I hope. But yeah, I just love Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. I think the teen romance is very interesting. I was really invested in the Triwizard Tournament. What I like the most about Goblet of Fire is that I separate the Harry Potter franchise into halves, where you have years 1 through 4, that's your first half, and then years 5 through 7, that's your second half. And Goblet of Fire acts like a bridge between those two halves. And I really feel like Goblet of Fire picks between the two styles, the two tones, and picks the best of both. It starts off like the awe-inspiring wonder of a Chris Columbus or an Alfonso Cuarón movie, but then later on in the movie it takes a serious turn, and it ends very dramatically. I really like Goblet of Fire. It's a very entertaining movie, and it's one of those movies I feel like I can pop on and watch at any time. I wish more blockbuster movies were like this. It's just a solid blockbuster movie where it's exciting, the dragon fight is exciting, the scene where they're underwater doing a race underwater, that was exciting, albeit pretty creepy. Uh, they had to kidnap Hermione and Ron and put them underwater and have them unconscious underwater. That's a little strange for an Olympic event, wouldn't you think? But yeah, that mixed in with the teen drama. I love the ballroom dance. I even love the subplot with Hagrid who's hitting on the tall chick. I like that shit. It's campy, it's cheesy. It's something you would see in a Sam Raimi movie, but I dig it. Guys, I dig Goblet of Fire. It's my favorite Harry Potter movie. What can I say? So there you have it. I will say something about the franchise as a whole. All of these movies to me are somewhat good, if not great. I feel like compared to most blockbuster movies coming out nowadays, I don't want to be one of those channels that rant, but it's been a while since I saw a really good blockbuster movie in theaters, which is why I wanted to revisit the Harry Potter movies and see, like, does this hold up? And it really does hold up. This is a timeless franchise, absolutely a timeless franchise in my opinion. Guys, it was a pleasure doing this Potter-thon with you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm planning on doing another marathon in October, much like how I did with the Zombie-thon. It would be a similar themed but different marathon in October, so hopefully you guys stay tuned for that. And yeah, I'll see you guys around. We're back to normal garage movie reviews next week. I might take a 1-day break, so next week is going to be one video instead of the usual 2.